We're live. Hey, so I don't put up videos as much anymore because the shutdown kind of killed the whole movie reviews thing I was doing for a while. But I don't know how often this is going to happen. This is the first game where I actually sat down and thought, I want to talk with people about it because it's the first game that does this kind of perspective, at least to me. So I thought I'd get some of my friends, Rachel, Brandon, good friends of mine that helped me on some other stuff, and we just talk about it. It's going to be really standard. We've got some beats that we're going to talk about. We've got one really crackpot theory that someone posted on their Twitter that I doubt Neil Druckmann or anyone at Naughty Dog is going to address because, in my opinion, it's way out there and making nothing out of, or making a lot out of absolutely nothing. But hey, that's what crackpot theories are. So we're just going to start, have a roundtable discussion. That's about it. We'll have some fun. All right. Number one, basic standard thing. Did you enjoy the game overall? What are some of your favorite parts? I will go last. Rachel, go ahead.
I did overall enjoy the game, even though games like this I get way too invested in, like at the beginning with Abby trying to get away from the horde. I'm playing the game, constantly like freaking out, like closing my eyes while playing. Probably should have done that. Let's just say I died a lot when playing, okay? Because I get too invested.
Oh, yeah.
As same thing though, that is also one of my favorite parts is her trying to escape that horde. It's not often when The Last of Us kind of does stuff like that with bigger groups of zombies. Usually you're pretty easily able to take them out. Mm-hmm. So constantly being on the run from them at that part was really fun.
Yeah, you normally only have like a max of like 5 or 6. And then I think there was like probably 25 that they burned at that gate. It's like,
yeah, I was gonna say, and like a lot of the time you can just Molotov them, so they're pretty easy to get rid of. Outside of maybe the big merged one that Abby deals with at the hospital.
It's called the Rat King, I found out. That I think's a
pretty
is that
cool
what
name. It's called?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
I guess my other favorite part would be Ellie and Joel at the museum because that was cute and I loved it.
Yeah.
And apparently you can get Joel to wear a hat separately.
You can. It's an achievement.
Oh, I was gonna say. Because I know you can put a hat on. You can put the hat that Ellie finds on Joel, but I didn't know he could also get his own hat. So he'll toss his hat on the dinosaur instead of tossing Ellie's.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's there. There's a lot of dinking around you have to do to get that to work. You have to put in like multiple dinosaurs first, and then some. It's weird because it irritated me. I sat in that level for like a half an hour because I wanted to platinum it because it seemed easy. I'm like, how do I put this damn hat on Joel? But all right. You got anything else you want to bring up, or
nope? That's good.
It'll
I'm good for that.
Whatever. All right, Brandon, go ahead.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the story overall. Not bad. I as a fan of the first one, I love the first one. It's a fantastic game. The second one did pretty decent. Minus some flaws here and there. My favorite part, I would have to say, is probably the Joel and Ellie part with the flashback of the museum. That was fantastic. I love that one. I loved any of the father-daughter moments with Joel and Ellie. Mm-hmm. It's just great. I love those.
Mm-hmm. You guys after this, which I will be bringing up stuff from it earlier, watch the kind of funny spoiler cast where they had Ashley Johnson, Troy Baker, and Neil Druckmann talking about the game. There's multiple times where Troy and Ashley had to take breaks because they were close to coming to tears talking about their relationship with the characters. I've never. Ashley Johnson almost full on shut down when they were talking about the scene where Joel dies. She couldn't handle herself. It was awesome. Ashley Johnson's one of my new favorite people on the planet. I absolutely loved it. There was points where obviously it could be better. We'll get into that later. It's one of the first games where I actually had an emotionally hard time playing it at points because of certain things you were asked to do. But we'll get into that. Like, the game mechanics were really tight. My favorite scene, it is not my favorite cutscene ever because in a games period, that's the ending part with a tape playing with a quote from Elizabeth at the end of Horizon Zero Dawn where Aloy's walking towards where she died. That is it. But this is probably my favorite acted cutscene in a game ever. It is a scene at the end where Joel and Ellie are on the freaking porch. It kills me. I cannot watch that scene without crying. It is a physical impossibility. I've seen it probably 10 times by now, and I just can't. Because they lead up to it where you're like, all right, so Joel dies at the start of the game. Spoiler alert! And you're like, did Joel tell Ellie? Like, does she know what happened? And all of a sudden, through the flashbacks, their relationship gets more complicated to the player, but it still makes sense. Like, you find out that, and again, Neil Druckmann in a thing says that one that's 2 years ago where Ellie finds out and Joel tells her, that's like the last actual conversation other than, hey, what do I need to do today, that they've had for 2 years. So leading up to the explosion at the dance or whatever, that's the first real talk they've had. And so then they do that, and then finally, like 25 hours into this game, you see this dance, which was the first thing they ever showed for the game. I was like, where is this cutscene? And they have the explosion, and you're like, the last thing she told Joel was pretty much told him to F off, and then he dies. I'm like, you're killing me. I am like, my head is blowing apart. And then they do a double. You're like, no, the actual last thing they did was, I want to try and fix this. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I at least want to try. And then it just cuts. And that's just, oh, that was so well done. But I could gush about that freaking cutscene and lead up to it for hours. My favorite part, and I partially hate it because it still gets me every time I play through it, that sequence where you go through that hotel with Abby and the stalkers and clickers are stuck to the wall and just randomly bah at you every now and then.
Yes, I hate that.
Oh.
I love that because you get to see how much the infection has taken over. Really,
Yeah.
like
It's
what remains
cool
of the
to see
city,
them
you know?
stuck in the wall, but it freaked me out every
My-
time because I'm like, "Are you gonna come? Are you gonna come?"
And I had to beat
I'm
it
like,
twice to get all the
I'm as
achievements, and
Abby
it still got me.
crouching down and everything.
Yeah, I was never more relieved to take that gas mask off in my entire life. I was just like, thank God that is done. But the one that gave me the most anxiety, and Rachel, I'm pretty sure I said this to you, was you didn't get to it yet. People that don't know me, I have an extreme fear of heights. An unbridled extreme fear of heights. I like to test it, but if something comes up, I'm going to hard nope. I had to put the controller down when you were asked to go across that scaffolding on the skyscraper on the skywalk. I had to put
died
the controller
so
down.
many times.
When
That
you're
I
was-
died so many times.
that one's rough for both
You have
the
to like
player and
balance
Abby.
at that one point, and I just kept dying and dying and dying because I'm like, I just have to get through this.
Exactly. And the entire time, Abby's just like, are you freaking kidding me, Levin? At the same time, I'm like, come on, man. Like, I can't see the ground. And then there's the point where you're like, you're on the regular skywalk. I'm like, okay, it's stabilized. We're fine. Because that's normally my rule. If I'm stabilized, I have surroundings, I'm good. And then you get asked to walk unshackled on top of that thing. And I'm like, okay,
Yep.
I can't see the ground. We're good. And then you're on it for 2 seconds and the clouds go away and you can see everything. I paused it, I set it down, and I walked away. I couldn't do it.
Yep, that was me. I was like, I can't.
But, ugh.
It's rough. But luckily when they fell, they hit glass and then water. That little pool.
I know when they
Yeah.
actually fall in the cutscene, I was like, oh man, did they do it again? I was like,
Yeah.
oh no, wait, sure, you're supposed to fall. It's good.
Yeah, I thought I died. I was just like, ugh. There's so many times where, like, okay, we're going to talk about little funny things before we get into serious topics. The one main complaint that I had gameplay-wise is extremely, extremely, extremely minor. I swear that there's 2 clickers in the very start of that game that are straight up busted. The scene where you first get in to that, like, I want to say it's a grocery store or it's some store of some kind, and you have the 2 clickers, and it's that scene where
Yeah.
Dina drops on top of Ellie, and they show that it has echolocation because it doesn't see Dina right away. My idiot self didn't catch that. So the first time I'm waiting to go get it, it does the echolocation thing and just kills me because I'm standing 2 feet in front of it. Because in Last of Us 1, you could kind of just be stupid and wait for it to walk up to you and shiv it. The second time, I'm just randomly I'm walking up behind it, and then it goes, no, and turns around when I'm walking at like 0.5 miles an hour. I'm like, come on, man. But
I'm just glad that they can't see Dina because I probably would have died a lot.
oh yeah, that's a good thing with all of them because outside of Lev, all of them brazenly just went, I'm gonna do hot laps really quick during some of the scenes. I'm like, thank God they can't see you because
Mission
I'm
rod. I'm like,
dead.
Dina. I'm just like, Dina, what are you doing?
Man. But yeah, that was where I was just like, buh. But anyway, next thing, this is something Rachel specifically wanted to talk about. The look of the game and the attention to detail. There are parts, and you have to look up, I can't think of who the YouTuber is, but they do like 20 part videos, and then they've done multiples of them. They're just always in multiples of 20 of like the attention to detail of how stuff moves and how it works. Like if you go into camera mode or you just like watch Ellie after a while, like you have actual water droplets in real time come off her clothes. You have just stupid amounts of detail with other things, and just that game looks so good. When you see like the scene where Ellie takes like her shirt off and you see the bruises and like the cuts and all of that on her back and stuff, are just like, that looks like a real human. Like the uncanny valley's getting real tiny.
Or like the
scary.
chemical burn on her arm with how twisted the skin is. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's so cool.
Right?
And like even with the tattooing on it, her skin is still
The facial animations that you can see, even when you're playing and you're like choking someone out for a stealth attack, and you can see like the struggle on their face.
Yep.
It's
and
just
like their
amazing.
eyes roll back.
It's got to be the
I didn't
best
want to stab anyone
graphics
after a
I've seen in
while.
any video game so far. You know.
Yeah, the only thing that beats this out for me is I'm horribly obsessed with the Decima engine. It's what Guerrilla Games uses for it was also used in Death Stranding. That's the only one that comes close on this, but it's just like, yeah, like what you said. And then as far as like attention to detail goes, also, like they also had like, I can't be the only one that felt morbidly horrible like killing the dogs.
I was so mad when I found out I had to kill a dog. I was like, do I have to? Do I have to?
It sucks so bad. And it's like the worst part is like, and this is in that detail video, I started bawling. Luckily, I never saw this because I would have had to put the controller down. If you ever get to a point, if you want to play through again, if you want to experience horror, kill everybody except for one of the guys and his dog, and then kill the owner of the dog. He will full on Simba and Mufasa, Dad, get up, and like nudge him to try and get him to move.
Oof.
I'm like, are you serious?
That's so rough.
And then you
dude.
have to
That's
kill
what
the dog
makes
because
it.
they trigger. And then you have to kill the dog because they trigger his enemies. Oh, that's awful.
It makes it hard because the game forces you to kill them. You know, and
Yeah.
it's rough.
It is rough, and it's like, and we'll get into things it forces you to do later on, but like, man, the fact that they gave everybody names was pretty cool. Like you can actually see that they're killing whatever, and then they'll bring it back and all that stuff. Oh, the fact that you actually kill Bear from that cutscene where you get to play tennis with him or play ball with him.
Yeah.
Also, in that scene, attention to detail, I could just talk about those 40 things in that video. If you like, you play fetch with them. If you play fetch with him and then you leave and you look back, he'll play like with himself, whatever. But if you like chuck the ball out of reach, he'll just stand at the fence and wait for someone to throw the ball back at him. Like they have variations on almost every scene. The just stupidity of
the attention of detail.
Stuff like that is cool, but like, what is it? I think it's whenever you're at least killing wolves. Every so often, you'll hear them be like, "They got John." It's like very generic names, but they put details into that, like screaming each other's names. Or the things that impressed me a lot was like when they're walking through a lot of these old buildings, like. When Ellie's going through one of the hospitals, there's a whiteboard in one of the rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And literally the way, if you move the flashlight, you can literally see how it casts shadows on there, the way a whiteboard catches light.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, I spent like 5 minutes playing with that. Because I was like, wait. Wait.
Another thing is when you're fighting enemies, depending on whether they're the wolves or the scars, and you basically injure the person, but you didn't kill them yet.
When you down
depending on you down them. Depending on how many people there are left, there's no one left and it's the final person. A lot of the times, depending on who it is, sometimes they beg for their life, but mainly they say just get it over with. Like, you don't have the balls, get it over with, hurry up. And then if there's people left, they beg for their life because their friends are still alive. So they're like, wait, no. You know, so it's
exactly.
really neat. I did enjoy that.
If I could find the links for those, it's got exactly a bunch of that stuff like you just said. And like there's certain scenes where like if you're in the scene with Nora and like you don't want to hit her, the game will make you hit her after a while.
Right.
And it's just like you can't just be like,
Oh,
no, the
mean.
scene cuts. It like you have to. It's God, there's just so much. Oh, but what else is gonna? There was a couple other. We could go gush on that for a while, but yeah. Anyway, okay. So again, if for some stupid reason you are watching this and you have not seen it and you do not get anything spoiled for you, which I did before I played, so that sucked. We are going to talk about something massive. Joel dies. Just saying, he does.
It's very sad.
I got the fact that Jesse and Joel die spoiled for me. There's a random cut.
Aw.
There's the cutscene where Ellie leaves the house with Dina, where she's talking, like gathering her guns up and stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's like, did Jesse and Joel, like, it popped up. I'm like, okay, it's a regular discussion. I'll watch this. And then I don't plan on dying. And it just goes, neither did Jesse or Joel. I'm like, ah! And someone's like, don't worry, it's safe. I'm like, are you kidding me? Now, on my perspective, as soon as credits rolled on Last of Us, I was like, if they make a sequel, Joel is 1,000% dead. There's not a chance in hell Joel's making it through that next game. If he gets killed at the end, there's no chance. So this is a world they're building on consequences. There is not a chance on this earth that Joel makes it through. None.
No,
But
I agree. I always kept saying the same thing. If there's another part, Joel's gonna die. I don't know when, but he's gonna die.
And okay, so Joel dying, it's gonna bring up an extra question that I didn't quite tell you guys about, but I'll go with Brandon first. Were you okay with how the death was handled?
See, that's a big half and half for me. I would say to a point it's okay, but I feel like the way it's done, I get it, it's kind of realistic in a sense that he got caught off guard, and that's going to happen no matter how good of a person you are or how, in tuned you are with everything. But I feel like that wasn't like a way Joel would go. Like, he would just trust to go with another group and not be on guard with anyone or anything, and just assume, okay, sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
Outside my window.
That's fine. That's
Some
fine.
motorcycle. I don't know, I just feel like he got caught off guard. That wasn't very Joel of him, how he died. I get that it's impactful, and it definitely was, and it was a realistic way to go for having people that, have a grudge against you, and they got you in this one room, and come out. I'm really half and half on that. It's like, I did enjoy aspects of it, but then other ones of it, I guess, could have been handled a bit better. But again, it comes down to writing, and that's nitpickiness too, of like on my end. But in all, I think it was a lot better than Joel just getting bitten and infected and dying that way.
Yeah, I would agree. So what the heck? I had two parts of that question. All right, so I was handled all the stuff like that. I have stuff to go again. I'm going to be bringing up a lot of stuff from that spoiler cast because they brought up details of other stuff of how they might have possibly shot stuff. But Rachel, go ahead.
So,
Sorry, I have to silence my phone.
I mean,
it's blowing up.
Oh, you're good.
I agree.
Okay.
It does seem kind of weird on how easily he got taken out, at least. But at the same time, you got to remember they did have his brother, so he's trying to cooperate. And like Abby just wants to beat the crap out of him, so he's kind of left there. But at the same time, we're talking about a character from the first game in a Naughty Dog game that's like a one-man army.
Yeah.
So it is kind of hard for me to feel like he can easily be taken out that quickly, or well, not quickly, but the way he was, just because again, with how his character was in the first game and how he was built up. He's this tough guy. He can take out basically anyone. He basically took out a whole hospital of people on his own.
Mhm.
So that part does kind of bother me, but I get the point of it because, they're trying to show that, yeah, it's Joel, but even Joel isn't immortal, I guess is a good point to put it, especially when you want to compare to the fact that people are constantly in danger of dying from the virus, getting eaten, or other people. But then you got Ellie, who's immune to most of those things.
Yeah.
Right.
So I can see that impacting her more for the ending.
Yeah. I think the one nitpicky thing is that they built Joel up, and the way he's written is that he's so later on, like throughout the second game, he's always like telling Ellie to be careful, and he's always a very cautious type of person. And he even told Jesse that, like, he'd take him out on patrols, how to do them correctly, how not to be an idiot, basically, and make the right choices. And I feel like just for him to die like that was like showing that he made a mistake, even though he's the one that's so on point with trying not to make those mistakes, which is both a plus and a negative.
Which, exactly.
Human, no matter what, you're going to make a mistake, which is nice, nice touch to that, but also didn't feel too much like a Joel decision. I guess.
Like, I don't know how much living in that town softened him up.
That's what I'm going to bring up. That was
I was going to say, maybe living in the town softened him up because, before in the first game, he hated everybody. Like, he wasn't even really all that close with his partner. I can't remember her name. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Tess.
That was her name, yeah. Like, she died and everything, and he didn't really care too much.
Yeah.
Like, he cared for a moment, but he was like, we got to move on. We got to keep going.
Yeah. And that's what I was going
And then again, I guess you could say he softened up from Ellie in the town.
Yeah. That's what I was going to
maybe that's why he's like, okay, we could trust her.
Yeah. It's like, you kind of talk about, and if you read notes and stuff like that are in the game, it's like that. And you kind of see it when you go to Joel's house. He's basically kind of retired. Like, he's the old man that's whittling wood carvings and like playing guitar. And like in a couple of notes in the game, you see that the town is basically turned into, hey, we're a safe haven for people coming through. Come supply up, do whatever. We'll feed you, give you a good night lodging, and head on out. And Joel's basically become one of the pillars of that community. You can see why the guy who just wanted to have a horse and leave has an entire town leaving flowers on his front doorstep.
Yeah.
And it was very much, I will say it was very much an advantageous situation how he was handled, because they led him back to the place where Joel, like, you're not going to think it's whatever. He didn't know that they had like 10 people there. And you happen to catch Joel at a point where his guns are on his horse 10 feet from him. And then I kept thinking to myself, I didn't like that at first either, because he was taken out rather well, but I'm like, 6 to 10 people with guns. Joel, within 2 seconds, got his calf blown to shreds. I'm like, they handled that situation correctly.
It is really, really realistic in that sense,
Yeah.
One shot to the leg, you're done, Yeah. It's not like you're a Superman, you're going to get back up.
Yeah.
This isn't a Fast and Furious movie.
Yeah, the thing I didn't get, and I still have had no one, including the director in interviews, explain, why did they splint his leg?
Yeah.
There's like, she said to make him not bleed out fast.
That to me just looked like they were trying to stabilize his leg.
Yeah, like, I guess because she wanted him to like not go unconscious. I don't know. I really don't know.
I have no idea.
She said something about wanting to drag it out.
Yeah.
Like, she wanted to torture him.
Like, she didn't want him to bleed out, I guess, before she could torture him or get done with that.
I guess.
So I guess that's the justification. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I was like,
right.
Okay, I guess.
That was the exact same thing I said. I'm like, sure, I guess we're doing that.
Yeah.
Thinking back on that scene and Ashley Johnson just screaming at him, my head's going places. Okay. So.
Oh.
Go ahead. You're gonna say.
I do want to say one thing. Yeah. And I know people are probably gonna hate this because I know people hated the comparisons before.
Yep.
I will still say I do kind of want to compare it to The Walking Dead's first season with Lee's death,
Oh, the Telltale game. Yeah,
Oh,
I got
yeah.
you. Okay,
just because
got
that
it.
was also kind of dragged out. They both do make me sad, but I kind of like how Walking Dead did it because you're spending more time with Lee, so
Sure.
you're getting to say goodbye to him.
Yeah,
But
that is-
Joel's
Right.
is much more brutal and out. He's just gone.
okay.
All
So
the other Joel
Right.
moments are flashbacks.
one small detail I learned from that spoiler cast with the director and the 2 voice actors originally, until Troy Baker said he should say nothing at all. Joel's brain was so screwed up from getting cracked that he actually looks out at Ellie and calls her Abby. Or I mean, not Abby, Sarah.
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 That calls her Sarah, like thinking that was his daughter. And then
Yeah.
Troy thinking he should just not say anything at all. And Troy actually apologized in that because he wanted to your point, Brandon, kind of go that he's preaching, always be careful, always do whatever. And then the one time he cared too much or was too cautious or loved too much, he died. That was the one time where he allowed himself to get caught off guard, whatever. And then he tried to show that in the last moments, Joel is looking at Ellie. He's dying, but his last thoughts were still on her. And I was thinking of ways of how the situation could have been handled differently if, like, all of a sudden they're like, Joel Miller. I'm like, unfortunately, Joel said his name before he got there. But if, like, you were going to say that Joel wasn't, going to say his name before he got there, if all of a sudden Tommy goes, yeah, my name's Tommy, and this is my brother. And then Joel all of a sudden goes, Jerry. And like, there's really like, are you sure? You seem kind of hesitant there. It's like, and they bring up the fact that Ellie even brings it up when they're talking with Dina when you first enter Seattle. And she's running through the list of people that Joel wronged in the past. Somebody was going to get him eventually.
Yeah,
Over
exactly.
time,
Yeah, see,
Because he did wrong
I
a
think
lot
they'd
of
be a
people.
little more careful with their names.
Yeah, and that's a very I do enjoy that a lot, that Ellie was going through that, because it shows that there's not like a good guy or a bad guy. We just perceive it that way,
Yep.
but really it's just people surviving and doing what they have to do. And no matter what, you're gonna look like an asshole in someone's eyes for killing someone or doing something or crossing someone, you know?
Exactly. And then
So that
someone
was handled really well.
Yeah, and that was another thing from the interview. They weren't even sure how they were going to tie Abby in either. Originally, you know that Tommy, when they're at the dam, Tommy goes, "You did some horrible shit," and then Joel's like, "Yeah, I kept us alive. That's what I did." So he talks
Yeah.
about how they used to be hunters, like what these people are. And originally, their idea was that Tommy and Joel, when they were hunters, wiped out the caravan of these people, and Abby was just there and remembered their faces. I personally like what they went with now better because it makes more sense to me, but that would have driven home the whole "you did a horrible thing," which to talk about that for a few seconds, someone really bluntly put this on Twitter, which I laughed at pretty hard. It's whenever it's like at the end of the game, Joel made a decision to save Ellie because he loves Ellie, loves it like a daughter. I am a person who has no children, but would love to someday have a daughter. That's why this game really gets to me. And they brought up but people are like, he killed them for a cure for humanity. I'm like, I get that. That is a shitty thing to do. And then someone posted the end where Ellie's like, my life would have fucking mattered. And then they put a mile long response after it of Joel saying back, yeah, well, A, we don't know if it would have worked. B, how the hell are we going to get it to the entire country? C, who is going to take it guaranteeing they know it worked? How are they going to know that it worked? How are they going to believe you that you're not trying to drug them and take stuff from them? How screwed up society is, who's going to believe them?
Exactly, especially this far into the whole apocalypse, you know? And then also, if you've managed to get that and say people are going along with it and they say, you know, I want the cure, you know there's going to be a power play with that because there is no government. So they're going to say, well, we have the cure, but you got to do this for us. You got to do X, Y, and B, and you might get cured. We might help you take a vaccine. We might not. it's going to be a huge power play. You know, that's also a big negative with it that I think Joel saw as well and was like, you know, it's not worth it to struggle with all that.
Yeah.
Things are going to shit. Might as well keep it like that. At least I have someone who's like a daughter to me.
Exactly.
You know,
and
there's no saving humanity.
No, they're screwed. And like you saw with Nora, when she gets down, they make a point of it in the first game where he's like, I got bit. This is 2 hours. That's 3 weeks. This is real. Her bite looked horrible after 2 hours.
Yeah.
Nora looked like a freaking Leviathan off of Supernatural after 10 minutes from breathing the spores in. Are you going to get to them that instantly to get the cure in? Or is it a base vaccine that you can somehow, like you said, power play, convince everyone to do beforehand? And
right? It's just like a maybe we will, maybe we won't. Maybe there's catches to it, you know? They can definitely play that out. And I think Joel saw that as like a negative, you know, and was like, I'm just going to take this chance because we're already fucked. So might as well say, screw it.
Exactly. Just, ugh.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Because there's no way to guarantee it. We still don't even actually know if Ellie is the only one who's immune. We don't even know why she's immune.
No, it's just the cordyceps. The
And the only way
exactly. There could be more people. There might not be.
Can you imagine someone gives you this drug and says, "Okay, now let this thing bite you and see what happens"?
Yeah, exactly.
Who
Exactly.
Oh,
sorry, it didn't work.
There's a 50-50. You might die, you might not. You want to take that chance? We'll inject it with you. See how it goes.
Like at the ending there, when they're in that little town with those biker dudes, and that guy gets scared, and she's all laughing like, "Haha, you're scared of this thing."
Exactly. In that scene, I was like, Ellie, let the thing bite you. Please, let it bite you. And then just be like, too bad. Boom! And then just wreck both of them. Oh, I would have wished it would have went that way, but it's whatever.
She still handled it pretty badass for having that gash in her side.
Oh,
just threw that guy into the fucking infected, and it just bit his neck. Then the other guy gets shot in the leg, and then she plays it out. She did like a very Joel thing to do too. Yeah. That like she learned from him is that she let him spill his guts about everything, and like leading it up to, and then she's like, "Thank you," you know, basically like, "All right, pop, done. Exactly. Don't have to deal with him. He's not a problem now," you know.
Who was also shocked that Dog the Bounty Hunter looking guy that you were just talked about didn't even get a name?
Yeah, he didn't, did he?
No,
not at all. Wow.
No,
I didn't even think about that.
That guy looks like the leader of the Rattlers. He looks like the guy who would be the leader.
I thought he was someone important, like maybe a right-hand man to someone or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But no, didn't even get anything on him. He's just there, and then Ellie kills him.
Yep. Just blows his knee out and then shoots him. They were just like,
oof. And then the way he punched Lev, I thought he killed Lev.
Oh, I thought he did too.
I thought he broke his neck with that punch.
Yep. Because of how hard he hit him, and also how tiny and frail Lev is. I'm like, you're dead.
Right.
He just killed you.
I was like, ooh, he looked dead right there. Yeah, I was like, is he dead? And now, okay.
Exactly. All right. So this is going to be the two probably most talked about parts on here. All right. I will openly admit, I don't have PTSD. I have moments where I remember things that are bad, but we lost Rachel. Right when we were going to talk about what we'll give it a few seconds, folks. Hang on. Let's see if I can message her. There she is.
I'm back.
Internet these days, right?
We got her. She saw PTSD and she's like, no, we're not talking about it.
I was like, I'm out. I'm out.
All right. Cool. I don't got to edit. That wasn't very long. All right. So I will openly admit, raise of hands here. Has anyone dealt with PTSD? Raise of hands if you haven't.
I don't have it, but my father has it. Because he's a war veteran.
Okay, so you might be able to speak on it a little bit, and I will leave that to you, and I will not even attempt to talk about like knowing it, because I don't. But as far as how they dealt with it, I'll go a little first because I know the least, and then I'll carry it on to you guys.
Yeah.
I thought I've never had anyone die in front of me. I have had a situation where I won't go into full detail. My parents are divorced. I had my father threaten to kill my mother in front of me and then attempt. did not get very far, but it happened. So that's why that kind of hit me kind of hard. But she saw something no human being should ever see. Ever. And under any stress of circumstances. Could stuff be worse? Yes, but that is bad. The fact that they actually showed how much this bugs her with the scene with the most adorable baby ever committed to a video game, who's referred to more as Potato than his real actual name. I'd like to add the scene with her screaming in the barn when she has the like nightmare of running down the steps after Joel. I didn't see that coming because like it looked like she had a regular natural life, and I'm just like, okay, they're gonna move on and it's gonna end here. It didn't.
Nope.
Just like I thought the game was honestly done when the scene in the theater was done. And then you have another 6 hours of gameplay. And I was just like, all right, this is a little bit like Return of the King, but I'm rolling with it. We're going to have another ending. But yeah, I thought we'll go into Obsession later because I can handle Obsession. That's the next thing that we're going to go on. But as far as the PTSD and the stuff, like just showing that she just can't get away from this, I thought was handled well. Brandon, you could speak a little bit more to it. You go ahead.
Yeah, I think it was handled really well, actually. Coming from divorced parents as well, and experiencing a lot of hardship in my own life, I won't say I have PTSD, but I do have trauma, and I know how trauma is, and it's not fun. It's not pretty. You reflect, and it's not great. And my father, who's a war veteran, he suffers from PTSD, and the way he handles it is fairly well, but you do have those moments where you sit and it comes out of nowhere. It just comes back. It hits you like that. And with Ellie, when the shovels fell over and it just had that quick flash, just like that, that's what happens to a lot of veterans. Because with my dad, when he hears fireworks and stuff, it's a quick flash of like, whoa, I was, am I back in Somalia? Okay, I'm not. I'm here. I got to ground myself. I'm kind of losing myself a little bit. I have to, and a lot of that happens because of hearing gunshots and people dying and explosions and all that. I think that was handled really well, like especially how she held on to the guilt. Even knowing she was living a different life and a happy life, it's hard for her to adjust completely. And that's what veterans have as well. They come back to society and people think, oh, get a regular job, do this and all that. You're adjusted, right? You can come back in. It doesn't work like that. They have a hard time listening because someone who's telling them to do something and that isn't like, on par with like the rank or experience that they've had because they were in the military, it's just hard for them to adjust. And adjusting to hearing certain sounds again, construction work, fireworks, things like that. Someone who yells and is like yelling for a happy reason or whatever it is, it's just all of a sudden it pulls you out of that moment. And that's really done really well with Ellie, how she got pulled out of that moment. And then with the barn shutting, I think that was really done really well with her dream. Basically like a daydream of her freaking out and going into the basement, and it shows the guilt that Joel's saying, help me, Ellie, and that she couldn't get through to him and help him. And she's carrying that for essentially years now, and she has to have some sort of recognition or some sort of condolence for it. Like, I have to kind of come to terms with this, not exactly get rid of it. She'll always have it for the rest of her life, because that'll stick with her always, but get rid of the guilt so it doesn't weigh as heavy on her. And I do know of that because my dad has friends that he lost in the war, and the guilt is always there, but he managed to accept it and take the guilt off a bit. But when he first came back when I was very young, in middle school and whatnot, and in elementary, all that really weighed heavily on him. And a lot of people get quiet. A lot of veterans do that too. And I've seen that with Ellie a little bit. She kind of gets quiet and reserved. You know how when Tommy was talking to her and she didn't want to do the revenge thing again, like she said, no, I can't. And she just kind of kept her head down, stared down low, did not want to talk about it, say anything. A lot of people with severe PTSD do that. They shut down. It's just, okay, yeah, sure.
Put
You
like
know, they
100% filter up so they can't.
Yeah. Exactly. So they aren't trying to get pulled back into that. They try to avoid it, is what it is. And that's why a lot of soldiers, when they have children or people that they care about, and they say, "Hey, military, I want to do this, and I'm going to combat or war," they recommend you don't, because they know that you're going to see the stuff that they saw, and that just weighs more on them. But Ellie needs some type of condolence for it, to get rid of her guilt, make it weigh less. So I get why she jumped back into it, to finish it or get some relief from it, But I think it was done beautifully. It was handled very well, and that's a hard thing to kind of hit right unless the director or an actor doesn't really, especially for an actor. If a director knows how it goes, they can help lead the actor into it.
Yep.
But the actor really has to get into a certain mindset with it and be like, okay, this is the kind of thing I have to portray with my voice and my movements and all that and gestures. I think it was done beautifully.
Oh yeah. And the fact that you had Ashley Johnson doing it helps a lot. I cannot shoot praise at her enough. I outside again of Ashley Birch doing Aloy, I don't think I've ever liked the performance in a video game as much as I like Ellie or Ashley doing Ellie.
Top voice actors / actors, since they have to do the mocap for it too, So it's almost like a live action,
Oh yeah. Oh, all right. So Ray, follow that.
Well,
sorry, that was long. I dragged it out a bit, but
that's fine.
no, you're good. So feed off of what you were saying though, you can see that stuff affecting her as the game goes on. Like when the game first starts off, Allie's her usual self. She's sassy, she's playful, she likes to make jokes and, mess around, like with her and Dina's back and forth as they're making their way to meet up with Joel and Tommy. She's just, she's messing with her. She's telling jokes and all that. But then after Joel, when they're heading to Seattle, she's way more quiet. She's serious. She's focused. She's not making as many jokes. Maybe to herself she does here and there, but that's usually her calming herself down when things are going crazy. But as the game keeps going, she's caring less and less about these other people up until she kills Mel, who's pregnant, and she didn't even realize she was pregnant until Owen told her.
Oh.
And that just hits her so hard.
Mm-hmm. The fact that they have her start puking, she's that immediate. She's that's the worst thing I've ever done. Immediately, it's the worst thing she's ever done, and she realizes it. She just
that's her wake up call. She just killed this pregnant woman, because she could have gone off with Jesse and could have found Tommy way sooner. But no, she chose to go. You're just seeing how she's, I can't think of the word I want to say, but how she's just going further and further into her
obsession.
Mindset and into her obsession. That's the word.
We'll talk about that later. That's one of the key subjects we're going to get into for both of them. But the other thing I was going to say, go ahead. Go ahead. You got more.
And with the whole mocap stuff, you can even see Allie's expressions changing. Because when she's if you move the camera around while she's talking, she's, playful, cute and all that. But as the game's going on, she's not as playful. Her smiles aren't as, expressive. They're I need to smile.
I'd say, and just kind of goes into the obsession part, so I'm not going to go into it heavily. But how Ellie just if you look at her face and how she carries herself, she becomes very much like Joel. Like how Joel was before he became happy with Ellie as a daughter figure. She becomes very hateful and very I need to kill you, no loose ends, fuck you, it's done, type person. And even when she's wearing Joel's jacket at the end, I love that. I love that it showed she's like him,
Yep.
She became like him.
Exactly. That's something Troy Baker brought up. He was in their spoiler discussion. He was talking about how the entire game turns into partially Ellie trying to be Joel when she's not.
Right.
Because she even tries the map trick with Owen and Mel, and she hesitates and frees, and Owen gets a jump on her, That would not have
Mhm.
happened with Joel.
Exactly.
Joel would have blew his leg out and said, "You wait, I will talk to you."
Yeah.
And that's what would have happened.
Like in the first scene, in the first game, when he stabbed the guy in the leg and twisted it to pop his kneecap, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Here, you're gonna take this pen and you're gonna mark here on this damn map where she is.
Then your buddy's
know.
gonna tell me, and it
Yeah.
better be the same.
It better be the same thing on this map,
Yeah.
otherwise your buddy's dead, and then I'm gonna kill you."
Yep.
You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then they bring that up multiple times where Ellie's like, "No, I've seen Joel do this," and "No, when Joel was here, Joel did that." It never ends.
I feel like Ellie's like when she talks to herself too a little bit, it's like she's referencing like, okay, this is how I did it before. This is how Joel did it, you know, or we've done this before. I got this, you know, and it's a lot of her
Yeah.
trying to give herself confidence because that's what Joel did when she was younger and she was trying to watch and learn, you know.
Yeah.
She does a lot of what he does, which is great. I love that.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to ask was supposed to be the first part of this question, but I totally skipped it. Was one thing that bugged me in the game, and I got it more when I played it the second time. There's parts in the game where, like you said, just go with Jesse. The entire game, there was multiple times where I got point blank irritated. And then I started realizing more that I was not irritated at the game. I was irritated at Ellie. And I don't think that was a mistake on the game's part. That was you trying to realize how frustrated everybody else is where she is just not ending. It's just, and that'll again go into obsession, but it's like with how she went through it. Did you guys like have moments where you're like, I think this is poorly written or whatever? Or did you just feel like you shouldn't be doing this?
Again, when Jesse was like, "Hey, if we go here, we can get to Tommy," it was like, just go with Jesse. There's no point to go there. You said you wanted to get Tommy and you would go. Go! I was so irritated.
Yep. Go
I
ahead.
felt like they could have done some parts just a little better. I don't want to hit on the writing because I get like it's its own thing and the writers had this envisioned already and they're like, you know, we want to go with this way. I understand that, but I just feel like, yeah, with what Rachel is saying, you know, she could have made a smart decision. I'm going to go get Tommy first and I can still do my revenge thing. You know, I can still get this over with, but let's secure Tommy. Because if anything, he's like the last bit of Joel that she has left. You would think she would try to really like go after and make sure he's safe, but I guess she trusted that he might be safe on his own, and she just obsessed. Like I gotta find Abby. I gotta kill her. I have to find her. You know, I can't, you know, stop and just make a smarter decision. But
And the worst part is,
you know, I
after
do get
that,
it from a writing point.
the worst part is after that, realizing how the scenes shake out, she would have gotten her revenge on Abby if she would have went to look for Tommy. Because where was Tommy? With Abby.
Exactly.
He was on the
Exactly.
boat.
With the whole sniper position. Oh. And
And
might
it
I
was
say
there.
might I say this? Not to interrupt anyone, but I love how death is handled besides Joel's, which was done pretty well as well, you know, but done more for an emotional effect. I like how death was handled really realistically in this. And it was done really realistically in the sense of like it happens in wartime too, when someone's talking next to you, a friend, and his head gets popped.
Manny,
It was done really well with Jesse. Like I didn't even expect that with Jesse dying. He just came out, boom, and I was like, oh
Bam.
shit, damn.
I know, at one point
And
I'm
then-
like, is he
yeah.
dead?
And then with Abby's friend, he just got popped real quick by Tommy. And I was just, boom, and I was like, oh damn.
and I thought Tommy was dead too,
quickness,
but I
you know?
realized the bullet just
Yeah.
grazed his cheek. I was like, did Tommy just die?
Yeah, I thought that too.
Yeah,
I
I
was
was like,
like,
wait,
oh,
is he dead?
but it is really realistic, which is nice, you know, in a sense, because it's like this person's here and then another minute they're not. And you can't be like, oh, it's dramatic. It's like, oh shit, take cover. Got to do this, you know, got to think about our next move and then grieve about it, you know, which is nice. It's realistic. I did enjoy that.
I completely agree. They treated it like Abby didn't go, shit, Manny's dead. She shut the door. She's
Yeah.
like, nope, Manny's dead. I need to leave.
Yep.
I'm like,
And then she's,
Yeah.
you know, in that moment of her trying to figure out what to do next, she's a little shaken by it. Like, oh, shit, you know, like he's dead. He's gone.
Yeah.
You know, this fucking asshole.
yeah,
You know, and then she's like, what do I got to do next? Then she's fearful because she knew that he had the drop on her a bit. So it shows, I like that they show that the character wasn't always confident in their decision, that she was questioning it like, fuck, what do I do next? A little bit of a panicky mode because he just got the drop on us and now he might have the drop on me, you know? I did
Also-
enjoy
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, how cool was that? That like, It's cool, but it also bugged me, and we're gonna get into it with at the very end. Like, there's 2 points in this during this path of everything where you play as Abby versus 2 people of Team Jackson. You have you're trying to get to Tommy, and initially you're like, shit, that's Tommy, who we just established in a previous thing has probably the best rifle known to man in this universe. And he's sniping me from a distance. And the best part is he's doing the shit to you that you do to NPCs in the game. He's shooting vans to draw the clickers and stuff after you. That's awesome. No other games do that. And then like when you're fighting Ellie at the end, which might be my most hated part of that game, I was so pissed. I'm like, if you make me kill Ellie, I'm not finishing this game. I can't.
That hurt,
Right?
man. That hurt. Just to
As soon as I
see
found
that
out
you have to
that I was
press X
still
to
Abby,
to
I
hit
was
her
like-
in the face.
And then like
I was like,
Dina
I
gets
have
shot
to
with an
fight
arrow
Ellie.
and like,
Oof.
oh, but then you get to like you get to walk up on Ellie and you see Ellie is taking out her backpack and putting together bombs. You get to be an NPC versus the player. That almost never happens. And
yeah, that was
right.
really cool.
ah,
Like she wasn't just patrolling; she was actually doing things that you, the player,
Calm
would
down.
do.
Calm down.
Yeah.
Sorry, my dog's acting up.
well, that's fine. It's all right.
Calm down.
Attention.
Okay.
All right. So before we start mending subjects here, we're gonna get on another one. That's another big one. And be perfectly honest,
Hey, calm down.
toward the end, did you feel remorse for Abby? And did you like the way how they showed it changed her life afterwards? I'm just going to say the basic stuff because I don't have too many general thoughts on it. Abby's life was ruined because of it. Just ruined. If Ellie wouldn't have found her, she would have died because of all of this. All of her friends were murdered. Every one of them. The dog she liked died. She's no longer with the WLF. She would have died on a spike in the middle of Santa Barbara because of all of it. But so I'm like, you know what? I'd be an absolute asshole if I didn't go, you know what? You're hunting her because she did something to you because of why she hunted Joel. You killed her dad and the organization that she loved and believed in with all of her heart. You really can't go, and a lot of people did, and I get it. Good God, trust me, I get it more than anyone else because I have a surrogate father figure in my life because my father is the only closest thing to useless I've ever said in my life. My youth pastor, Luke. I always put Joel in that position. If something like that happened to me with Luke, I wouldn't be the same person. I would. It'd be a null fact. I couldn't be the same person. So you have it on both sides, but then a lot of people, I won't say everyone, I'm going to try my hardest not to say everyone, from the first game was like, no, it's Joel. I don't care. You killed Joel, therefore she's an asshole and Joel's not. And then like all of us have said, he did murder an entire complex because he didn't want to lose his daughter figure to prevent a cure that could have possibly saved people. But again, there's logistics. And then after she kills him,
Stop licking my leg.
after she kills him, leading up to possibly trying to kill Joel, she turns herself into an absolute machine. So if she ever gets this chance that she can kill him, she becomes Isaac's #1 wolf killer, according to Mel, and she just becomes a lot more remorseless. Like she loses Owen because of it. And this is leading up to it. I'm not trying to get timelines crisscrossed here. Leading up to it, and she goes with Mel, and then like even Owen's like after a while going, maybe we should go back and try and find the Fireflies again. And she's like, no, man, we can't miss training. Training becomes her life and getting ready to her entire 4 years of her next life come up to killing Joel. It's done and it fixes nothing. She still has nightmares and all that. But again, that's an obsession, so I won't get too far. Did you guys feel remorse towards Abby? And were you okay with how it kind of people acted with her after it? Brandon, go ahead.
Oof. I'm gonna be honest here. I can see where it was going, and I understand it. Did I feel remorse for Abby? I was more happy when Abby was in shitty situations, just because I didn't care for her as much. Just because we've had a whole game with Joel before, and like I said, let's say the first game didn't exist at all, I would have had more of like a attachment to Abby and her character, and towards the more new characters. But since we've had the previous ones like Tommy, Joel, and Ellie, I cared for more of their safety throughout the story than Abby's. I get where they're doing with Abby, and I do feel a little, I do see it like from a human perspective of her saying, Joel killed my dad at that point. Of course she's going to go out and try to get revenge on him, just like with Ellie. It's a reflection of two mirrors, basically, with Ellie trying to get revenge on Abby now because of the same similar situation. So I get that. I totally get it. But it was just hard for me to connect to that character. Just watching all of her story unfold, it's like I'm not as connected with her stuff, her characters and whatnot. Not to say I don't understand them, though, because I do understand the writing with it, and I think it was excellent. It was fantastic. If the first game didn't exist, I would have been 100% on board with Abby's view of everything,
Yep,
and
fine.
so, yeah, but I'd say half and half, I understand it, but I'm not as attached to her, so.
Yeah, that's fine. And it's a hard thing to do because
Right.
the big thing that got spoiled before this game was, for some people, is that you play as Joel's killer for
Right.
a while. I'm like,
might I
What?
say she did get what I think were the better cinematic scenes in the game, because Ellie
Yeah.
got a lot of the open world perspective of the
She
game,
got a
and
lot
she
of the
got a
same
lot
stuff.
more. Yeah, Ellie got what felt like Last of Us 2, and Abby got what felt more like Last of Us 1. Linear story,
Okay.
more cinematic moments, more and the story felt more engaging actually for her side of it. Gameplay wise, it felt more engaging just because it was more flashy, cinematic things were going down that were heavier. With Ellie, it was a lot of open world scavenge, scavenge around. Kind of, you can come to like these areas if you want to. Different like things, that they're saying, like you can open world it basically to a point. And it was nice. She had some cinematic moments, like falling from the window when the one of the infected grabbed her and like pushed her
Yep.
through. It cracked.
Yeah. Yep.
She was falling. She went through the water. I was like, she's gonna totally hit something. She's
Yeah.
gonna hit something. It's gonna fuck her up.
Oh,
But she
yeah.
didn't, because luckily her backpack saved her when she hit
Yeah.
like that metal stuff that was
Yep.
deep under the water.
Yep.
But yeah,
Oh yeah.
All right. Before I forget, I will get to your Rachel next. As far as the comparisons, I kind of get what you're saying, but the thing that came to me, especially when you're on the Seraphites Island, it kind of felt to me like, because that's one thing I did miss. I very much like the idea that Ellie's behind enemy lines were invading Seattle, and I have basically 5 city blocks to deal with. It's realistic. I get it. Abby's towards the end, and why part of what I loved about The Last of Us 1 was the travel. And there was parts, especially like I said, the Seraphite Island, where it seemed like we had parts of Uncharted in The Last of Us.
yes. Oh, I did feel like that. I was gonna
Like when
make
you're
the comparison.
when you're riding the horse over the thing
Right?
and they're on your back and you see the people next to you and you're like shooting people off as you're going through a burning city. I'm like, this kind of feels like Uncharted, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Taking key notes because Naughty Dog.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Rachel, go ahead.
All right, so this is actually great timing because me and a friend were actually talking about this earlier. Not really, but I kind of do blame on the way cutscenes came up in this game, because literally you kill Joel, she kills Joel, and then you have to play as Abby. I don't want to play as Abby after she just killed someone I care about.
That's gonna be the hardest
So
one.
I was a little conflicted there. And my friend brought up a good point to me. If they had kind of moved certain clips into different places, maybe I would have grown attached to Abby first before we find out, oh shoot, she wants to kill Joel. Because my friend said, what if they, because at the beginning you're going from Joel, Abby, and Ellie a few times there. So, you're getting the story shaped out. She's like, so what if you got Abby's backstory first? Like, you find out her and her dad going to get the zebra. Oh, turns out he was the doctor. Oh no. Now Abby's with Joel. Oh no, is she angry with Joel? Like, if they played that back and forth a little more, maybe I would have felt more remorse for Abby. And like I can see why they put clips where they did. I just also feel like they could have been placed in different places to maybe make me care about Abby a little more. Because like Abby's a great character. She's super strong. She's an awesome woman and all that. And like I love how many times people are like built like an ox. I'm like, yeah, she is.
Yeah.
But
Hell yeah.
I didn't really care too much about her until Lev gets in the game with her.
Yep.
Because I feel like Lev is her. This is an actual term, but I can't think of the term. Basically, you give a character something that makes them more likable, and that's basically what Lev was for me with Abby.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't think of what the term is right now, but that's basically how that went for me. Because I did not care about Abby until Lev came into the game.
Lev
was a redeeming quality for Abby because I felt like Abby had more of like a Ellie and Joel style. We have this thing where she finds someone that she has to protect that she loves, and it's like a redeeming quality for her.
Yeah,
and I think that was a good choice. And for what you were saying in the beginning, Rachel, about changing the story around a bit, like the certain scenes and all that, I feel my friend was talking to me about this, and I wouldn't say this is like something they should have done, but something that is an idea. What if they would have not killed Joel in the beginning? What if, and this is what a lot of people probably thought it was during the trailers because of when Joel like grabbed Ellie in the trailer and he was like,
Jesse.
yeah, and it was actually Jesse. What if Ellie and Dina were the ones scavenging and Abby's group killed Dina and Ellie wanted to get revenge for Dina, and then Joel joins up because he wants to make sure she doesn't die or get hurt. And then at the end, and it goes back and forth between Ellie and Abby, seeing Abby's point of view of everything, and then it's slowly piecing together about her father and all that. And then at the end, they kill Joel. I feel like then people would connect a little more with Abby.
The only
in
problem,
that sense.
the only problem I have with that, and I think they would have got worse backlash for that, is because like it would. Well, a few things to me, and I had to kind of figure out how I felt about it. It's got two giant problems, especially with how media is handled nowadays. One, there's no stakes in that decision, at least to me. You knew Dina for 20 minutes.
Right.
And she would have been off. And the other thing that would have been really big, and we all know this because we're RWBY fans, it's the bury your gays critique.
Oh, God.
Introduce a new lesbian character. Boom! There goes the continuity truck. They're out of here. And it would have I get what you're saying. It would have been really cool to like have him go behind enemy lines. Like if there would have been a way to kind of like trap Joel to get him to go to Seattle to like try and settle it, that would have been cool. I get that completely. There's just ways where the story as a whole, I think we can all agree, is good. It is just probably could have used one more run through of how they were gonna.
Exactly, that's what I mean. I like the story. I just feel like things could have been fine tuned a little better. Because again, I didn't like Abby for the longest time. I didn't care. Or like another thing, because I kind of thought about this because I've been playing Halo recently again. Don't ask why. One of my favorite things about the second Halo game is the back and forth between Arbiter and Master Chief. Like you're getting the story from their two sides. Like you're Arbiter in one chapter, then you're Master Chief in one chapter. I kind of wish they did that too. I kind of wish we went back and forth between Ellie and Abby a little more, because by the time you're Abby, all her friends are dead, so I don't really care about any of them. I don't really feel an attachment. Like Manny's cool, but I still didn't really care when he died. And like the only reason I cared about Mal getting killed is because she was pregnant, not so much their conflict. Like finding out their conflict was interesting, but I kind of wish they had gone back and forth a little more.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally get that. And I'm not saying the game should have been done a different way, though. I think it was done just fine. It came out pretty decent, and I loved it. But just an idea to play with, like what if they did it that way type thing,
Yeah. I agree with you completely that I think it would have been cool to have Ellie go off. Like I don't know how the hell you could have done this, but to have Ellie go off to settle something because someone's threatening Joel. And then she's like, I'm going to take care of them. I don't want to lose Joel. Like something happens to where Joel maybe isn't as good as what he could be because something happens. Like maybe they wound him and then they get away because they stopped it. And then they go after them because of it. And then maybe you're with Joel. like the whole idea of like you're doing something stupid and dangerous, and then Joel basically comes in like at the end of freaking Endgame through a portal and is like, no, fuck you, you ain't hurting Ellie, and just wrecks people would have been awesome. And yeah, it would have been cool. But
and when people do say, oh, Joel is off and we get no time with him, we do get his flashback scenes, and we do get that the whole hotel one where they have to go through that big ski resort or whatever, the resort, and with Joel, and it feels really good because it feels like the first game.
Man,
just as Ellie.
Fuck bloaters in this game
because he's right. I do like that he takes initiative. Like Joel is the AI. Like he'll go and take out the first enemy instead of you having to do it, and then that AI follows. It feels like he's taking the initiative, like he's the leader AI. Even though you're the player, and you're taking like that backseat AI type style play, which is great. Cool. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah.
And by the way, Joel's a beast for taking out that big ass bloater with just the machete as it's like grabbing Ellie, and he's just like, nope, boom. Comes in,
just goes ham, and I'm like, he just killed that with
we got our badass Joel moment for the game,
Yeah, right. We did. I was just like, because like that was one of my first animations in the first Last of Us where he just de-jaws Joel if you get caught. I'm like, holy. And then I'm like, all right, I just died because he grabs you in the same way, and then you see the machete come over the top of Ellie's forehead and just start wrecking him. I'm like, yeah, Joel's awesome. God, I will. One thing, going back to that scene leading up to it, a lot of these always went, or at least with Ellie's flashbacks, they kind of went, Ellie does a thing here. Then you kind of do that in gameplay. Did anyone think we were going to get a Last of Us 2 with Sam or Last of Us 1 with Sam and Henry kind of moment where we sniped a bunch of people after we had the tutorial with how to snipe people with Tommy's rifle?
Yeah, like I thought there would be a bigger moment with that, just to since they're like giving you like a big like know-how of the sniper rifle with Tommy, and then they're gonna have like a moment where they needed to do it, like they're engaging and they're like, all right, we need to take these out from afar, and the game's like, all right, well now, so if you need to distract like a certain group of them, hit the metal sign and they'll run over to it, or break the glass, shoot the glass, and they'll run over and it'll make it a little easier.
Yeah. Before we get away from this scene, another thing from that thing that I learned is that this was not in that. I believe it was an interview with Collider where the two writers, Neil Druckmann and Haley Gross, I want to say her name is, they talked about how initially in the game, Joel actually had a love interest named Esther. And they cut her at the last second because they thought that it just wouldn't have enough screen time to where it seemed weird. Like you would have found a note to her in the end, and that was one thing. They also had a scene that they put together where, like, how at the end of the scene we're talking about now, how they're like, yeah, only if someone would have had a cure, right? And then Ellie's kind of like starting to get more pissy about it. They had another version of that where Joel and Ellie, like Esther lives on the outskirts of Jackson, and Joel and Ellie go to visit her, and it's just packed with clickers. Like it's just overrun, and she gets bit. And then, like, they're taking care of her. Joel's on the outside of the house, and Ellie goes in to go give her water, and then you hear a gun go off. You do not know who pulled the trigger, but Esther's dead. And then Ellie walks out, and they have basically the same conversation. She's like, yeah, too bad we don't have a cure. Otherwise, Esther wouldn't be dead. And then that brings up the whole argument the same way. And, like, the more I listen to this, the more I'm like, they had a really hard time trying to make people happy with this game.
Right. It's just fan bases are sometimes dumb and hard to please, but they did a good job. They should really take pride in what they did because they made a blockbuster stellar fucking sequel to the first game.
There was no way everyone was going to be happy with this.
No, you can't satisfy everyone. It's impossible. There's so many nitty-gritty things that you change one thing and another person's like, well, that's dumb. And then it satisfied this group of people, but not the other, And, okay, well, then we'll do it this way. All right. Now these groups of people, you just lost them because they're unsatisfied. But this other group of people like it, it's a hard thing with writing and story-wise. It's like Rooster Teeth for Ruby, it's the same thing.
No one's ever. Oh, sure, yeah, we know. Also, before I forget,
we know.
Did either of you know that you could do aerial takedowns in The Last of Us 2?
You can?
No.
Yeah. Someone showed me a YouTube video. There's a video where Ellie is on top of a truck and a guy walks in front of her, and an emblem will go on top of their head, and she'll Assassin's Creed the dude off the truck in the back of his head.
Yo, that's cool. That's awesome.
No, I
You
did
know
not.
that.
I did not realize you could do that.
Watch that right before this video happened, and I almost forgot to mention it. I'm still figuring out crap you could do in that game.
I mean, she's nimble enough to do it. That's awesome.
Yeah, she weighs like
Dive
10.
bomb them. Actually
like-
makes it easier to take out people.
Damn
Wow.
right. All right. So these next two are going to kind of mend into each other. Your opinion on where the game went and how it ended, and at the end, did you side with somebody? Which I think we all just kind of said who we sided with.
I feel
Toward
like
the
we
end of
kind
it,
of accept-
Our
so
girl.
we don't need to really talk about that. So, and this will basically, we're going to mend these next three because it's how did the game end, who'd you side with, are you happy with where it went, and Cycle of Violence, how it basically affected their lives. So we'll just basically go through all three of those. How the game went, who you sided with, all of us, Ellie, and
He's Allie.
exactly, and Cycle of Violence, Obsession, and how it affected both their lives. So opinion on where the game went. I will say I understood why the game went where the game went. I can't say that I loved it, and I also can't say that I hate it. I am the most middle ground on where that game went because I'm like, I don't freaking know what you would have done.
You're not
And-
alone.
And like going after this with, we'll just run through all three. We won't take turns on all three. At the start of this, let's go from base. Start of the game, Abby's got a dead dad. Ellie has literally everything she could have asked for outside of the rocky relationship with Joel. It's not 100%, but cool. Abby kills Joel. Lets Ellie go. And you learn that more, which is another thing I appreciated kind of with the porch and the rodeo scene, figuring out how actually the relationship with Joel was. You find out that who all actually wanted to end this and who was all like, no, this is enough, we're done. Because you get to see like what was out, like how they blur speech. I don't exactly know how to say it. Blur is not the right word. How they muffle the speech so you don't hear who's saying what. Like Manny wanted to alpha right away, and Owen's like, no, you're not doing this, dude. They have nothing to do with this. And then I want to say the guy's name was not David. The one that Ellie cuts, I can't think of his name. The one that you kill in the beginning of the game. The one that's got you with your hands tied behind the back on the bench.
Yeah, that guy. I forget his name too.
And he's just like,
I can't think of his name.
he's like,
yeah.
she cut me. She's like, fuck you. I don't care if she cut you. You should have been by the damn door. None of this would have happened. We're not killing her. She did nothing wrong. So all of them are just like, we're appeasing Abby. We want to go. We're done. None of them wanted to do with this except for Manny, who was like, you did bad things. You're going to die. Man, I loved Manny. I love Manny so damn much. He was just the straight-laced dude. We're getting the jobs done. But, okay, so go from there. Ellie, at that moment, still outside of missing Joel, which is 90% of her life. Don't let anything get it twisted. I am acknowledging that. Has everything she could ever ask for. And again, then she goes to Seattle. She ends up losing Jesse. Thought she lost Tommy. Almost lost Dina, but because of Lev, who is a rock star, again, goes, Abby, you're not killing her. Stop. She almost loses Dina. She gets rocked away. She goes back. She has her own house with what looks like an electrified protective fence. The most cutest Asian child on the planet. Dina, herself, a pair of parents that love her so much that they want them to move back to Jackson so they can help take care of Ellie with her situation. And Tommy, who's still a little, they killed my brother, what the hell? And Maria, who doesn't agree with Tommy. Maria and Tommy are split. So Ellie, up until that point, still has a happy life. Quotation marks, stuff is still wrong. She has PTSD. It's never going to be perfect again, but that's because she's having trouble processing what she actually thinks she's going through, which I don't think it was actually what it was after a while. It kind of just floats into something different because you see at the end, it was kind of more like towards she never got a chance to forgive Joel. She wasn't even mad that he's dead after a while. She just never got that moment. And that's kind of why she stops with Abby at the end, which we'll get to. Abby doesn't have relationship with the WLF like she used to because she had to run away from them because she wouldn't kill Lev because she finally found out they're a bunch of murderous assholes that she sided with because she wanted to get buff and be able to take out Joel she wanted. She lost David. I think one of the characters. No, not David. I think it was Noah. I could be wrong. I think it was Noah. She lost Nora. No, it's not Noah because it's close to Nora. Whoever the kid was that she cut, that was one. The guy that Owen kills because Owen wouldn't kill that Seraphite. She loses Owen. She loses Mel. She loses Nora. She loses Alice. And all the connections to everyone that she liked there, she has Lev and Yara. She loses Lev. No, she only has Lev left. And then she goes to find the Fireflies. And if it wasn't for Ellie, she would have died. That was as far as obsession went. And then because Ellie couldn't stop, she lost the rest of what she had left. Plus 2 fingers. She also lost those.
Never gonna be able to play again.
That'll go into the ending. That killed me. Good God, did that kill me. But it's just like, in the end, the cycle of obsession, I get why they had Ellie stop because she saw Joel. And after a while, to me, in her head, she's like, this isn't getting me Joel back. This isn't going to make me feel better. And it finally got to the moment where she almost had what she wanted, to where she's just like, I just wanted to say sorry to Joel. I can't. Because that was the last thing that pulled through her head before she was about to kill Abby, is that she never got to completely make things right with Joel. And that, I was just like, and then you think Ellie is turning into like people like David, who was a cannibalistic asshole that was choking her out and she almost died too. She was damn close to being like David. And she then, another thing that she was so pissed about Joel about is the fact that just because he needed a daughter figure, he slaughtered all these people when she would have wanted to die. And now she just did the same thing because someone killed Joel. She literally understood, I get it. I can't be mad at you for this. I just did the same damn thing. That was the moment where like all the stuff in the game that I didn't like, it kind of clicked at the end. I do wish, and I like your guys' opinion, at the end, which they probably didn't do it this way because of a sequel hook. I don't know if I would play a game as Abby, but do you wish, and then I'll throw it over to Rachel, you can go first. Do you wish that at the end you would have had a choice? Triangle, X, kill Abby, triangle, let her go. Rachel, go ahead. Do you actually wish that was a choice? Because part of me wishes that kind of could have been a choice.
So, I'm gonna say, yeah, I kind of wish that was a choice, but that's probably because I like Telltale games a lot too, even though half the time those choices don't matter. But
The power of choice.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that would have been kind of an interesting thing, kind of like how they force you to beat Nora if they made you make the choice at the end. Is should Ellie kill Abby at the end? Because when you think about it, yeah, all that stuff you brought up about how she's actually feeling towards Joel. It's not so much that she's mad. It's she can't say goodbye. She can't say she understands now because now she does. She's in the same situation he was in. And at the same time, a little bit of her is like, hey, I don't care.
Yep.
So it literally would come down to the player. Do you really hate Abby that much to kill her in the end? And that's probably why they do leave it so open-ended again. To be like, hey, maybe there'll be a sequel hook. Because, I mean, they do leave it open saying, hey, Fireflies are actually still around.
Yep. Yeah. Future Days works so well. I need to bring that up. The whole, if I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself. I'm like, you could not have picked a better one line from a song ever.
That song is so good for this game because literally that's what happened. She lost Joel. She started losing who she was. Like you said, she had everything basically. She had a great life. She had Potato.
Damn kid.
I'll be honest, I didn't realize the kid's name was Potato at first until when you go to the island, if you like read her journal, it says I miss potatoes. Like, why do you miss potatoes? I was like, oh, the baby.
Yeah. It's like they say JJ, but she's just like, no, she refers to him 90% of the time as potato. That's awesome. Ah, it's great. All right, go ahead, Brandon.
I would think that would be a neat like way to just give the player the option to, and a neat way to play with the story. Like if you killed Abby, how much of that would affect her mental state later on for a sequel? But it's half and half to me. You could have done it, and that would have been cool, but you could not have, which they did. You know, they didn't do it that way, so that's fine too.
Yeah.
But I do like that. It's just you're seeing Ellie unfold so much about this whole thing is for nothing, basically.
Yeah.
And how it's really just her needing to come to terms with Joel and accepting like a sort of I accept that, you know, what you've done for your actions type thing. And even when like at the end when you pick up when you're going through the house and Dina left with Potato.
Yeah.
And go through her journal, right? And you're looking at her journal and all that, and she just has things that are crossed out on there when she's writing, like, I guess a song or a poem or whatever. And she says, like, you know, I can't see you, there's no feeling anymore. And she like crosses out the word feeling, and she's like, can I accept like this, you know? And she's crossing out so many words that she feels like she had in the past that was like there because the wound was fresh, and then she rewrites it later on to say that I'm starting to find some way of finding condolence and healing, which I think is really, really awesome to see. What I think would be interesting is that since, like, let's say Joel died, right? And let's say they never went out for revenge, Ellie still would have had there we go. Sorry, I was hooking up my charger.
Nope, you're good.
Ellie still would have had a decent life. She still had Jackson. She still had Tommy as like can be that type of, I don't want to say father figure, but kinda. I mean, the last bit of what she has with Joel, you know.
Yeah, she'd have been that.
He
cool
can be
uncle.
like a good influence on her and help her heal. She has a group of people, a town. She has food. She has a shelter, a house, a little like home, you know, little like shack home thing.
I love that.
And she has Dina still, you know, Dina and Jesse, her friends that could probably help her through a lot of this stuff, you know. And she chose to go down that path of revenge. And even then, when it took her that far and life was basically like, are you done? Do you want to end it? Because this could get a lot worse for you type thing, you know. And she's there and she has that impact of PTSD still, and she needs to find that condolence. So she goes further with it until she's like, wait, really, I don't want this. I just want to find peace for Joel, you know, about talking to him and forgiving him and seeing how it is from his eyes type thing. And just finding my own peace so I can just be at rest with it. You know, I really don't need to kill Abby. That doesn't need to happen. That's not going to change anything. It doesn't bring Joel back. It doesn't bring her happiness back. Her PTSD is still going to be there. She's still going to dream about Joel dying and all that. You know, it may not be Joel screaming out, help me anymore. It might be her accepting it, but she's still going to have the nightmares. All that's not going to change, you know? So I think that was done extremely well, but that would be a cool option to have just to see how you could play with her mentality if you want to make her go further down that rabbit hole by killing Abby.
Yeah. If that would have been the last game they're ever going to make, I bet you they would have done that and then shot 2 versions of like what happened. Like
that would be neat.
Yeah, and then like forgetting the stuff with Joel, a lot of people really hate the actual end of that game. We'll go into the crackpot fan theory. It's not a bad thing, but it was like, in my opinion, someone's drawing a lot from nothing.
Right.
Or forgetfulness, I should say. At the end, she goes back and she sees that Dina left her. She's the house is just empty and all this. And the coolest thing, or the sucky thing, is like you see that her 2 hands her playing fingers are gone.
Yep.
And she pulls out that guitar to try and play that part of Future Days, and she can't because her fingers are gone. And why? Because she lost herself. And then she thinks to herself that she has that last memory, which that scene is so good. I get that.
That's a beautiful scene.
That freaking porch scene. Troy Baker just going, I'd like that, and trying so hard to not feel. And the best part is in that scene, you could see the droplets of tears come by and splash on his jacket. Oh, that scene's done so well. I love that scene so much. But anyway, she puts the guitar down. She's just like, no, I'm putting Joel to rest. I'm leaving the guitar here. We're done. I'm at peace. It's done. That was the last part of Joel she had left was that guitar. And then she just left and she walked off because she's like, I'm never going to be able to make my own life. This is all I think about. And it's an ambiguous ending. So was the last one. So, and I can tell you right now, I have less than no idea what they could do with this next one. I have no idea whatsoever. Go ahead. If either of you two have anything, go ahead because I ended it. I'm like, nope.
I have no complaints about the ending. Actually, the way it ended was actually kind of nice because the first game ended like that. It had that type of real world, like, okay, it's done. Yep. You know, like when she was asking, like, you know, are we gonna make it a Jackson? Is there a cure? Tell me you did the right thing. Joel's like, yes, and then cut to black.
Yep.
And then with that too, you know, having that flashback of Joel, like her being, okay, I can take steps towards forgiving him, you know, like, and him saying, yeah, I'd like that, you know, that'd be nice. And for her saying, okay, well, I'm done, it's over, you know, and then it just cuts to black. That's very real worldish, you know. There isn't like going to be a dramatic thing for this story. That's going to be, I mean, they could have done it like that, but I felt like it would have been more, wouldn't feel like a good impact on it if it was like nice and dramatic and like, oh, this is how it ended, you know, roll credits slowly. It's like, it's done. It's just, you know, she taking steps forgiving him and steps on healing for herself. Exactly. And then cut to black, and that's it. You know, that's really, really real world. Can't talk right now.
It's all good. But, yeah, that was, and it's like everyone's like, it needed stuff to be more impactful. I'm like, what you want her to do? Light the house on fire? Like what?
It's not gonna change anything if she goes out with a bang. Like, what can she do at that point? You want to see her go back to Tommy or something or whatever? You know, I mean, I get that, but it's like this is more meaningful to her because this is her story too, you know.
Yep. And
this is her way of saying goodbye to Joel. Okay, I can start trying to heal myself. That's why she was leaving the guitar there. You know, I got to put him to rest. I got to say goodbye. I can't dwell on this forever. You know, I got to start healing.
She felt like her life didn't matter because of not being able to be that cure anymore. She needs to find something that makes her life matter.
Exactly, because she lost her hope. And in a way, the Fireflies line of like, when you're lost in the darkness, look for the light. She lost her light, which was Joel. So she was in that darkness trying to find her light again. You know, what is her purpose for living now? What can she make of her life that would be good? And what can she do to change, you know, to change that and find meaning again, which was really nice to see. And her, within that, became an obsession, her obsession of revenge, you know, her revenge tale.
Exactly. Do you have anything to add, Rachel?
I agree with the whole point. I do like how it ended because, again, it's that whole iffiness. Like, yeah, there's more that you could touch on, but you also don't need to.
Yeah,
it has that uneasy ending feeling, which I liked. Like, she's all by herself now, and you decided to be mean and send me that video.
It's so good though.
It's so sad.
Where they cut all those scenes from the first game and this game.
Oh, it's so good though.
The music stops and she tells Joel her biggest fear is ending up alone. How does this game end? She's alone.
And she ended up alone. Her biggest fear came.
That's probably the thing that
came to fruition.
And I didn't think about that until I watched that video.
That's probably why I like the ending so much.
Exactly.
That's why I like the ending so much, because I was like, she's literally in her biggest fear. She made Tommy mad. He like doesn't want anything to do with her, possibly. Her little group of family is gone. Jesse's dead. Dina's gone. Potato's gone. Her whole farm life is basically gone, and she's alone for nothing.
It's a somber
All she got
tale.
Was 2 missing fingers.
When we do this and analyze it like as much as we are right now and just take a step back and look at it, it's just a sad tale. It's a real world, like, you know, not everything's a happy ending sometimes. You know, the real world isn't a fucking fairy tale.
No.
And, you know,
Exactly.
it's sad. It's a somber ending, but a beautiful one. That's what it hits you deep. It hits you really deep as for feelings and being human. It's just very interesting, and I love it.
It is interesting, and since we got a little bit of time before our game night starts, we also do a game night on our Ruby Facebook page if y'all want to check that out. Ruby Remnant's Finest. There was someone that brought something up in.
It's good stuff.
It is in that spoiler cast again, where Greg Miller was like, a person wrote in a question where they're like, in my opinion, and Neil Druckmann's trying to hold back so bad, and he goes, so I think that your opinion of how society breaks out is incorrect, because in my opinion, humanity would not have let all of this stuff happen, that they would have banded together against this I don't even know what to call it, an infection, because it's spores. Let's call it an infection. Because Resident Evil always gets incorrectly labeled as a zombie franchise. It's not. It's a bunch of people that do different things with viruses. But
Yeah.
it's like, and then Neil Druckmann goes, and then they're because they say like, we don't think people would split into factions and people would be against each other all the time. And then Neil Druckmann goes, if you turned on the news, there's people with assault rifles on Capitol Hill because they can't get haircuts.
The real world is very much like that. A reflection of it is basically it, because people are so divided. The real world isn't some place where everyone agrees on one thing, and that's how it is. Okay, people, we're going to fight this all together.
Yeah.
Everyone has different opinions, views, everything. That changes so much. That's why it just ends up like it is. And you would have people that would have groups and that would kill each other. You would have people that would create cults like the fucking Scars.
Exactly.
We believe in this, and this person is going to lead us to salvation, and then you're going to have groups that are like the Wolves.
Yep.
You're going to have people that fight amongst each other and are like that. And then some people that are just trying to survive.
Yeah.
It's a human story. There are no good guys. There are no bad guys. It's just survival.
Yeah.
It's
And that
human,
is one of my favorite things about this series. It don't matter what state you're in. It don't matter what city you're in, what hemisphere you're in. There is some random group of assholes that have come up with uniforms, a name, a logo,
everything under the sun.
And they're just doing whatever they want.
There's the Fireflies, there's the Rattlers, there's the Wolves, there's the
Scars. When you go to Santa Barbara and you got the Rattlers, it's like, oh, well, here's another group of fucked up people. Oh, look, they chained up infected. Oh, they enslave people and then they kill them when they try to escape. It showed how much of a shitty place that is for that guy that was trying to escape and he got shot in the leg or whatever and surrounded.
Oh yeah,
and then he blows his own head off. Yeah, it shows how much fuck that group is awful, And if you look, everywhere is awful pretty much. Unless it's like Jackson, then you kind of get like a little sense of, okay, that's a little easier. But even then, it's just people, and it's just groups of people.
Yeah.
Even amongst each other. Like even when Joel had to step in and say, hey, shut the fuck up for that guy that got drunk.
Oh, it's sad.
And was smart mouthed about Ellie and Dina, and had his fucking stupid views. And of course it's just people being people, and it shows that very well. Even in a happy go lucky type community like Jackson, people are still people,
Exactly.
I do like that though. I did like how Joel just immediately father figured that down. Hey, back off,
Dude, I don't care if you're a geriatric, I'm gonna end you.
And then it's so sad that Ellie was like, what the fuck you doing? I don't need your help, fuck off. And I'm like, oh, poor Joel.
Yeah.
It's denied.
Another thing from an interview with Neil Druckmann, I looked into this game a lot. Originally in that scene, you played it.
Clearly.
And you got to meet Ellie's ex-cat. And talk with her. The one that designed and did her tattoo, you got to meet her. There was a couple other things. But, okay, I think that we've pretty much talked this out. So overall, I really liked it. Rachel, you really liked it, but would have liked some parts different.
Yeah, that would be my consensus. I loved the game. It was great. Some changes might have changed my opinion, but I still really love the game.
Gotcha. And Brandon?
Really loved it. Stellar game. Awesome. I get where the writing went. A few minor tweaks, just minor stuff. But overall, I loved it. And I love the direction. A very human story, a very tragic story. And I just love the overall love for the game, A little connection issue with Abby, but, that's minor.
Yeah. All right. So now we're going to go into the crackpot theory that I had. And this goes into something else that Neil Druckmann had said. So I'm gonna show you guys something, and I'm gonna see if you can spot the difference. There's that picture. There's that picture. Now I'm gonna put them both side by side. Can you tell me a difference?
She's not wearing the jacket thing.
Close.
Oh,
You almost said it.
Is it about?
Her
Is is it her wristband? She's not wearing the wristband.
It is her wristband. So, in continuity, this person put this big up blowout thing on Twitter. And actually, so I don't misquote her, I am going to send it to myself and then I'm going to post it up on here. Because in this continuity of events, that first one is when she goes to Santa Barbara. And that second one is when she comes back. So that would mean that she didn't have the bracelet from Dina when she, hold on, I need to exit screens here so you guys don't see a bunch of my personal information. All right, so then that would mean that here we go.
That's a nice search history of hentai there. No.
Hey man, my hentai is top class. All right. Crazy thing is, I truly believe Ellie did have a happy ending and we just missed the clues. Another YouTuber commented on the letters you find at the farm when you're with Dina and the baby. It's from the baby's mother saying that she always wanted a place back at Jackson if you choose to come back home. You'll also notice when Ellie leaves to fight Abby at the end, she's not wearing the bracelet Dina gave her, but when she returns, the camera zooms in on her hand and we were forced to focus on the fingers missing, but it looked completely past the fact that she was wearing the bracelet. Probably meaning that she already been to Jackson, is living with Dina, and just went back to the farm for the guitar, but decided against it. This represents her finally being able to accept Joel's death and a cycle of revenge. Here's some of the things that back this claim. When she comes back to the farm, she is not hurt when she's not wearing her weapons, and she does not seem surprised that anyone is not there or they're gone when she enters the house. She does not call back to Dina's name. So I believe that there is one thing in there that this thing does not mention, which I'll mention. I still think it's pulling a lot, but in the original ending of the game, Neil Druckmann says that they had a version of this scene where Ellie grabs Ollie, JJ's toy, puts it in her back pocket and walks off. Meaning maybe she's going to go find Dina. In my personal opinion, this is a bit reaching. And the designers just went, uh-oh, she doesn't have the bracelet on. That's just me. I don't think she went to Jackson and then went back to get the guitar. I get it. The sentimentality is still there. We said it ourselves. She's just going off to be her own person. And I think when she went in the house, she kind of just went, fuck. To me, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for her to make a big scene to nobody. You would kind of just go, shit, man.
A real reaction to that is just, well, fuck. She did kind of warn her, you know, she did say, you're going to lose me. Because if you do this, you're going to lose me. You're going to lose me and JJ, you know?
Yep. Yeah. I just thought I had to share that. I was kind of like,
that's great. If you want a happier ending, that definitely could be the route to go. It just depends on how dark you want her ending to be, whether she's alone or she is back in Jackson.
Yep.
You know, and living life again as much as she can.
And I didn't say it before I cut anyone off. The reason why they didn't put I was going to say, if you guys didn't get it, you actually get this with the collector's edition.
What? That's awesome. I'm so jealous you got that, though.
I try not to wear it anywhere where I'm not going to do physical activity because this chain could break real easy. But
yeah, you don't want that stuff to break.
The reason Neil Druckmann said they didn't have her leave with the toy is because that made it really pinpoint where she was going, and they wanted the ending to be ambiguous, which I prefer. That's just me.
That's awesome. I like that.
Yeah. So
I like that. Yeah.
Watch that kind of funny thing. If I can remember, I'll put it in our little chat thing on Facebook, but you get to learn so much about what they did. Whew, awesome. It's awesome. But yeah, guys, thank you very much for coming to discuss. If we all end up playing the same game in the future, which I don't know we have that close of gaming likes, but if it happens, we'll do that. Next game I'm going to play is Ghost of Tsushima, and I don't know if either of you are going to play that, but
nope.
maybe. Yeah. There we go. All right. but
It's
I would
one I'm
like-
interested
There
in.
you go.
it looks awesome.
It looks amazing.
And it's next Friday. I'm so excited. All right, so thank you guys very much. As normal, when I do this normally on videos, and John Campia kind of got me into this. The guy who I used to watch on Movie Talks, the guy who got me into doing stuff like this on my movie reviews, on our RWBY stuff. I like to shout out to the people that are nice enough to come and help me out with these things. So, Ray, tell them where everyone can meet you and what you're into and all that good stuff.
I feel like it's slightly exposing there, but you can find me on Twitter as Ray Sketchit. I talk about ducks quite a bit, like DuckTales and Darkwing Duck. Just saying, there's a duck literally right there in my thing. I think I gave it away a little.
Just a little. It's fine, though. It's fine. All right. And Brandon, where can they reach you at?
Hey, you can find me at Tipsy Crow Cosplay on Facebook and on Instagram. I do cosplay of my favorite characters, and yeah, and I also do voice acting, so you can hit me up on that too. So
Awesome. Guys, thank you very much for talking. This actually worked out pretty well. I was initially giving us 3 hours of buffer because I had no clue how long this is going to last, and it's just under 2 hours, so that worked out pretty well. So we got 20
Nice.
minutes before we do our game night. So, all right, guys, again, thank you so much. I look forward to possibly doing this again in the future, probably if Last of Us 3 comes out, which I really hope it does. And the fact that they're staffing up at Naughty Dog because of how successful it is, we're probably going to get it because they said they don't want to make Uncharted anymore. So, all right,
No,
I
there you
will see you guys later. Bye-bye.